a crossword puzzle, a name hidden in plain sight, and a small town still haunted by a girl who never came home. It sounds like the setup to a detective thriller, but this story isn't fiction. In early 2024, investigators in Oklahoma reopened a decades-old disappearance after discovering something strange inside a word puzzle. It was a puzzle mailed 20 years ago by one of America's most infamous serial killers, the BTK killer, Dennis Rader. And within that puzzle, highlighted in faint pencil, were three chilling words: Cindy, Kinney, Kinney. Those are the name and street connected to the disappearance of 16-year-old Cynthia Cindy Dawn Kinney, who vanished from Pawhuska, Oklahoma, in 1976. For nearly 50 years, no one knew what happened to her, until this clue appeared, linking her name to the twisted legacy of a man who once called himself BTK. Bind, torture, kill. To understand how this connection came to be, we need to go back to the beginning, to a quiet summer day that ended in mystery. It was June 23, 1976. Cindy was a bright, cheerful 16-year-old, full of energy and plans for the future. She was a cheerleader at Pawhuska High School, friendly, outgoing, and known for her warm smile. That morning, Cindy went to help at her aunt and uncle's laundromat, the Osage Laundry, on Kinney Avenue, just a few blocks from her home. She was only supposed to work a few hours. She told friends she'd be done by noon so she could make cheerleading practice. But that afternoon, Cindy didn't show up. Her family went to check the laundromat. The lights were still on. The door was unlocked. Inside, nothing made sense. There were no signs of struggle, no broken glass, no overturned chairs, no screams heard by neighbors. But a few strange details stood out. Loose change was scattered on a table. A half-eaten donut and a cup of soda sat near the counter. It looked like Cindy had just stepped away, but never came back. Her purse was gone, but her car remained parked outside. Police searched the area, interviewed locals, and brought in dogs, but there was no trace of Cindy anywhere. In a town as small as Pawhuska, news spread fast. Everyone knew her. Everyone helped look, but days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. Eventually, the case went cold. Her family never stopped hoping, but with no leads, no suspects, and no evidence, Cindy simply vanished from the record, another unsolved disappearance in rural America. Until nearly 50 years later, when the name Cindy Kinney suddenly appeared again, this time connected to one of the most notorious killers in U.S. history. Dennis Rader, the man who called himself BTK, was born in 1945 and raised in Wichita, Kansas. By all appearances, he was ordinary. He went to church, got married, had children, worked as a compliance officer, and served as president of his congregation. To his neighbors, he was polite, quiet, dependable. To his family, he was strict but loving. But behind that calm exterior lived a hidden obsession, one with power, control, and death. Rader's killing spree began in 1974. His first victims were the Otero family, parents Joseph and Julie, and their two young children, Joseph Jr. and Josephine. He broke into their home, tied them up, and murdered all four. It was one of the most shocking crimes in Wichita's history. From that day forward, Rader would become a name whispered in fear. He began leaving clues, sending letters to the police and newspapers. In one letter he wrote, "I am BTK, bind them, torture them, kill them." It wasn't just a confession, it was a signature. Over the next several years, Rader murdered more victims, women he stalked, planned for, and methodically executed. His victims included Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, Maureen Hedge, and others. He took items from their homes, jewelry, photos, underwear, trophies to relive his crimes. Then, in 1991, the killing stopped. For 13 years, nothing. It was as if BTK had vanished. But in 2004, long after the world had forgotten his name, Rader couldn't resist the urge to be seen again. He began mailing packages and puzzles to local news stations and the police. Inside one of those envelopes was a crossword puzzle filled with strange words and phrases. At the time, it seemed like another one of his twisted games. No one thought much of it. But 2 decades later, that same puzzle has resurfaced, and with it, the possibility that BTK's list of victims may be longer than anyone imagined. He gave each target a name, scouted locations, and kept photographs and sketches as trophies. It wasn't just about killing. It was about control. As news of the new clues spread, the media exploded with headlines. BTK linked to cold case in Oklahoma. New puzzle points to missing girl. Could BTK have more victims? For the families of Rader's known victims, the news was devastating. It reopened old wounds. For Cindy's relatives, it brought a flicker of hope that maybe, after half a century, they might finally know what happened to her. But for investigators, the path ahead remains uncertain. The puzzle could be a genuine clue, or it could be a cruel coincidence. Some experts argue the evidence is too circumstantial, that without DNA, eyewitnesses, or a confession, Rader can't be tied to Cindy's case. Others believe it's only a matter of time before the truth surfaces. After all, BTK was known for revisiting his crimes in letters, sketches, and stories written for himself. Maybe this puzzle was one more confession, buried in plain sight. What makes this story so haunting is how ordinary Rader appeared. He wasn't the shadowy stranger hiding in alleys or the drifter passing through town. He was a church president, a father, a man who shook hands with police officers and helped neighbors mow their lawns. That's what allowed him to go unnoticed for 30 years. He blended in. He wore normalcy like a mask. When he was finally caught in 2005, it wasn't through brilliant detective work. It was through technology and arrogance. He sent a floppy disk to a news station, asking if it could be traced. Investigators told him it couldn't. They lied. Metadata on the disk led police straight to a computer registered to the Christ Lutheran Church in Park City, where Rader served as president. They matched DNA from his daughter's medical records to evidence from the murder scenes, and it was over. Rader confessed to 10 murders in gruesome detail. In court, he described every act calmly, no emotion, no remorse. He even corrected small details when the prosecutor got them wrong. To him, this wasn't horror. It was record-keeping. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms, 175 years in prison. But as the years have passed, his name keeps resurfacing. Each time, it's tied to new possible victims. Investigators believe Rader may be linked to several unsolved cases beyond Kansas, including in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Nebraska. Many of those disappearances match his timeline and method. Middle-aged women or teenage girls attacked in daylight, with little or no evidence left behind. In each case, Rader would have been within driving distance, and often on a work trip for ADT, the home security company where he installed alarm systems. He used that job as cover to enter homes, study layouts, and identify targets. It was the perfect disguise for a man obsessed with breaking into people's private worlds. Now, with modern technology, investigators are retesting old evidence, scanning properties, and using digital forensics to decode his writings. Every new lead could be the missing piece to a decades-old puzzle. But the haunting part of this story is not just the crimes. It's the silence that followed them. For 13 years, Rader lived like an ordinary husband and father, knowing full well what he'd done. He watched TV with his family, went on vacations, attended church, and kept his trophies hidden in a locked box. He fooled everyone around him, even the people closest to him. That ability to live a double life is what makes his story so terrifying. Because if someone so normal could hide such evil, how many others could be out there? Now, as detectives dig through the past, one question hangs over the investigation. Did Dennis Rader take the life of a 16-year-old girl named Cindy Kinney? Or is her name just another haunting coincidence in a case already filled with them? If he did, where is her body? If he didn't, who did? And will we ever really know the full truth? The puzzle, for now, remains unsolved. But it has reopened a wound that never healed. A missing girl, a grieving family, and a killer whose shadow still stretches across decades. Rader once wrote in one of his prison letters, "The dark side of me is still there. I just keep him locked away." But for his victims, And for families like Cindy's, that darkness never truly went away. It lingers in the unsolved cases, in the hidden pages of his diaries, and in every unanswered question left behind. Maybe, one day, investigators will find the final piece of this puzzle, a confession, a trace of evidence, or a clue that ties Cindy's name to BTK once and for all. Or maybe this case will remain what it has always been, a haunting mystery that time refuses to bury. Either way, one thing is certain, the story of Dennis Rader isn't over yet. His legacy still grows, one uncovered clue at a time. And as long as his words continue to surface from the shadows, the world will keep asking, how many victims were there really? And what secrets still lie hidden in the mind of the BTK killer? For now, all we can do is keep searching, keep remembering, and never stop asking questions. Because somewhere in the quiet streets of Pawhuska, Oklahoma, a 16-year-old girl's name still echoes, waiting for the truth to finally be found. This is Case Unknown, where cold cases refuse to stay buried. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more haunting mysteries. And don't forget to like the video to support real crime stories that deserve to be heard. Drop your theories in the comments.